Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the knowledge that we've built so far to go backwards and to create the equation from the graph. Okay? So, remember, we've talked about a couple of things about graphs. First of all, we've talked about that form that we use. Remember the slope-intercept form is y equals what? mx plus c. If you don't know that's the slope-intercept form of the line, you will not pass this section. It's as simple as that. Okay? So, I know we've been building through a lot of stuff, but you need to be studying these. It's not enough just to be able to do it when I prompt you, but remember, you're going to have to do these, not me. Right? So, keep that in mind. If I give you a formula, or I give you a definition, or I give you a method, then you better study those. It's not about just doing your homework. It's about knowing when to do something, right? So if I ask you to graph using the intercepts, what is the x-intercept? It's the point where y equals what? 0. What is the y-intercept? It's the point where x equals 0, right? So you need to know these things. All right, good job. All right, now, so in order to use this, I need to know, first, I need to find m. And m stands for slope or gradient. And if we're talking about finding it from a graph, we're going to simply be counting rise over what? Run. Okay? So in order to do this, the first thing I have to do is I have to find m. Second thing, I need to find c. Because the y and the x just stay y and x from the equation. And remember, c, that is the y value of the y-intercept. I'm not interested in the x value of the y-intercept because the x value of the y-intercept is always what? 0, so who cares? Now, could the y value of the y-intercept also be 0? You bet it could be, right? It could be going through 0, 0, yeah? All right, so all I need to do is find the slope by counting rise over run from any 2 points. We've done that several times. And then find the y-intercept and identify the y value there. And that's it. Then, step 3, plug those values. I always say plug. Substitute is the proper mathematics term. Plug those values into the form. Making sure you're very careful about signs and putting them in the right spot. Okay? Slope goes in place of m. C is the y value from the y-intercept. So if you can count, you can do this. Okay? So plug them in or substitute them, whichever term you like. So here we go. So step 1, they do it backwards. I like to find the slope first, doesn't matter. Find the y-intercept. Okay? Step 2, find the gradient or the slope. And then step 3, substitute those values into the equation. Same thing I said, but I like to find the slope first, but it doesn't matter. You can find whatever one you like first. Remember, slope is rise over run, and if it comes out as a fraction, what must you always do to every fraction no matter what? Simplify it, you betcha. It's wrong if you put 12 over 4. It needs to be simplified. Good. So here we go. Here is our line. Okay. Let's just make this bigger. You've got it in your book so you can see. First thing I want to do is I'm going to identify the 2 pieces of information I need. I need a slope, m, and I need a y value for the y-intercept. Okay? Which we're just going to go ahead and call what it is. What do we call that thing? Not y value. We call it what? C. Okay? Let's use the right terminology. Okay. Now to find the slope, I'm just going to count rise over run. Does it matter where I count rise over run?
No.
Nope, I can choose any 2 points as long as they're on one of those intersections, okay? So just going from here, here's a point, and let's see. Does the second one look like it's on the intersection? Look in your book and you can tell a little easier. It does? So that looks like it's on the intersection? Okay. Now they went way out. Do you have to? No. Don't go crazy, right? Just from one point that you can count from to the next. So that means you're going to go to the right, what? 1, and down, what? 1. Okay? So, remember it's rise over run. So get them in the right order. And watch the numbers they're counting too. And they've got 2 different scales. So to the right, we went over how many units? 1 unit. And they're counting in ones down there, right? So that means the run is 1. But when you went down, we went down how many units? 5 units. And down 5 is what kind of 5? Negative. Okay? And negative 5 over 1 is the same as plain old negative 5. So our slope is negative 5. Now you see they did 10 and negative 50. That's negative 50 over 10, which would be negative 5. You don't get carried away. You just go from one intersection to the next intersection. That way we're working with the smallest numbers possible. But you could use any of them, right? Because the slope is the same all the way along the line. Okay? Now I've got to erase a little bit here because I've gotten really close to some other piece of information that I need. That's this dot right there. Why is that dot so important to me? It's the y-intercept, exactly. And so I need the y value from that intercept. Well, the y value is just however far you went up, which is what? 85. So my c is 85. Okay? So wherever this line is crossing the y-axis, you need that number.
Does that have with the x value as well?
Well, x value there is always what? If you're on the y-axis, the x value is always 0. Because you haven't gone right or left any. Okay? So, now we'll just plug that in. Y equals mx plus b. So y equals, what's my m? Negative 5. X plus, what's my c? I'm sorry, negative 5 plus c. I'll use c. I'll just call it b. So, 85. There's your equation. Your work is done. If you can count, you can do it. Not bad, huh, for being able to write the equation from looking at a graph? Now, we're going to look at several more of these, so don't panic if you didn't get it. All right? But it's important you understand where those numbers came from. Does everybody have that all written down? Because I'm about to push the button, which makes it go away, you know. I'll give you a second. All right, so, again, 2 pieces of information is all you need, then plug them in. So we're going to write the equations for the following lines. So it's got 2 lines on this graph, right? Okay. Doesn't matter. And they've labeled them line 1 and line 2. Make sure you do the right one in the right spot. It's really important. And you're going to see a lot of lines that are like this, a lot of graphs that are like this, where they give you more than one line on the graph. Because you can do a lot of information, get a lot of information from when they're like this. Now, yours is much clearer than mine. So for line 1, first of all, oops, sorry. I'll get rid of all the blue. Keep turning it blue. For the first thing I need to do is find the slope for line 1. And I'm just going to use this point and this point because they're nice, dark, easy to count from lines, right? Watch your scale, but this one's easy because they're counting in what units? Ones, right? So to get from this point to this point, I'm going to go up how many units?
2.
Up 2, so that's positive 2. And then to the right, how many units?
1.
And 2 over 1 is simply 2. Now, I need to find my c. C is simply the y value where the line crosses the y-axis. So if you look where that green line crosses the y-axis, it's crossing right there, right? Which is up how many units?
3.
So c is 3. Don't make it harder than it is.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that again?
Right? Here's where the green line is crossing the y-axis. Do you agree? And to get there, we just had to go up what? 3. So c is 3. What if it had been down here? It means you'd gone down 5. So C would be negative 5.
Wait, what are those dots?
That was just me counting.
Right.
Don't worry about them. Okay? All right. Now, so for line 1, y equals, what am I going to put in place of m? So 2x plus what? 3. There's my first equation.
Wait, you put that in the thing and cost from that?
Right. Yeah, we'll put it in the right spot in just a second. Let's get them first and fun. So now let's do the other one, because I need to make it big for me to be able to see the lines. I'm old. Okay. So m equals rise over run. Find any spot you want to. I'm going to count from here to here because it's easy. To get from there to there, I need to go up how many?
1.
And to the left, how many?
1.
So what's left 1 make? Negative 1. And what's 1 divided by negative 1? Negative 1. Now I need to find my C. The spot that I picked a while ago is also the place where it crosses the y-axis. So that's down 1, 2, 3. What's down 3 mean? Negative 3. So y equals negative 1x minus 3. So it's not always plus, right? If it's a negative, then it's not plus, it's minus, okay? So here's my second equation. All right? Do you have those written down? Because I'm going to require you to read them to me because the second I push this button, they're going to disappear, right? Okay? So what's the first equation? Y equals 2x plus 3. The second one is y equals negative 1x minus 3. And we'll talk about that in a second. There's something probably you're asking about, thinking about anyway, some of you. So the first equation, 2x plus 3.
Yeah.
And you have to have that plus there, by the way, because otherwise there's nothing between the x, so be careful. The second one is negative 1x minus 3. Now here, do I need negative 1x? I could have written it as just negative in front of the x, right? But it's not wrong if you put the 1. If you want the 1 there, because it looks better, especially if you're just filling in the blank, this looks better to put the 1 than just to put a negative. But if you don't want it, if you just put that, sorry. Oy, I'm not having very good luck today, am I? If you just put this negative, how come that's not working? Oh, because I'm an eraser. If you just put that, it's a perfectly good answer. Okay? Right? Because negative x is the same as negative 1x. Those are the same thing. So I'm happy either way. Okay? All right. If it was fill in the blank, though, I'd probably put the 1 in just because it looks good. All right. How does it look? Pretty good? Really, what we're learning how to do is read the graph. Okay. Come on. Come on. Don't let me go down any further. All right. So then you have some where you're just going to be finding them. Look at this one in here. Be careful. They have a dot right there in the center. That's the origin. But is that line crossing there? No. So be careful. It's crossing up 1. So be careful. Just because it has a dot at the origin doesn't mean that you're going to use that dot. I don't know why they have it. Okay. Now, second thing we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some applications involving graphs. We can use graphs to answer questions because graphs of just lines have meaning. They mean particular things, and we can read items off of them. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put together the same skills that we've been using, right, to be able to answer some questions. So look at number 1. Arapeda, I don't know, and Isaac are saving to go to a rugby tournament, which will cost them $750 each. These people love rugby. All right. The graph shows the total amount that Isaac is saving, and T is the total amount. Can you tell me, is T the X or the Y axis? It's the Y axis, right? And if you look at the chart, you can see the line is going up, which means that over time, his savings are what? Are going up. They're increasing. You betcha. Okay? Which hopefully we are, right? So here's our T. So that's the amount of money he's saved. What is the X value? The number of weeks he's been saving. So who can tell me how much he has saved then in 10 weeks? How can I find that out? Just follow the 10 up until I hit what? Until I hit the line. And then from that point, you just go over, about 550. Not quite, right? It's in the middle of that one can't happen to come out in the middle. Okay? So not all of them you're going to be able to read accurately. So if I was going to say that, I would have to say about $550. If it doesn't land exactly on a line so you can tell the exact monetary value, then you use the word what? About. If you tell me something that's not true, you will be counted off. Right? But you can certainly say about. Okay? Now, most of these are probably going to give you things that fall on lines. Okay? But not always. He wants to find out write an equation for the total amount he's saved after n weeks. So they want us to use this information to write an equation. Well, to write an equation is easy. All we need is y equals mx plus b. Or plus c, I'm sorry. Okay? Now, it doesn't matter. When you're solving it, you could do that as t equals mn plus c if you want to. But you could also just use it like that. I don't think they'd count it wrong. Okay? But in this case, the y is a t and the x is an n, so we'll go ahead and do it like that. Okay? Now, but it's still the same ideas, right? So what we're going to do is first I have to find the slope and the c. Well, the c is easy to find in this case. Where's the c? 300. At 300. So we could go ahead and just put that in if you want to. T is not going to change and n's going to stay something. All I need now is the slope. All right? Why did I put 300 in place of c? Because that's the place where it's crossing the y-axis. It doesn't cross, actually, it just hits it. Okay? This is very typical when you're dealing with money because it's always going to only be in the positive areas because money is always positive. Okay, so now I got to find the slope. And to find the slope, we just need to count from one point that's easy to recognize to another point, right? Well, we already know that 300 is on the line, right? So that might be an easy one to use. And the next piece that's on the line looks like it's about right there to me. The others look kind of like they're not hitting right on the lines. So that means we need to go up. Up how much? Well, 300 to 400 is 300 to 400 is 100, right? And then we went across to the right. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. Be careful of your scales, right? So use the scale that they've given you. We had to go up 100 units and to the right 4 units. And 100 divided by 4 is 25. So that tells us that the equation for this is t equals 25n plus 300, where t is the amount he saves. Let's write that down because that's important. T equals the amount of money, right? And n is the number of what? Of weeks. Now, you don't have to write this part, but you're going to be answering questions based on which one's which, so I'd write that. Yes, ma'am.
Well, see, I was looking at the answers, and the answer for that one was 50n plus 100, but then I tried it and it is very incorrect.
Okay. The answer of that one is 50n plus 100?
That's what it says. But
Anytime you have change they ask you for the change, that's the same as just finding the slope. And since we're asking a specific question about how much you change, how much, we have to put the units. Now, when you're writing the equation, don't put the units in there for the equation. But when you're answering a question, don't forget the units. So you might want to write something to remind yourself. Okay? All right. Now, after how many weeks will he have the $750 that he needs? All we need to do is go to the graph and read across from at 750. So 750 is, I keep turning this thing blue, is halfway between two, what are they doing to this though? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Ugh. They're doing it in 20s. Oh, that means we're...
But like the line is right.
Okay, so the line is, all right, on the dot. So it's halfway between those two. So we're like there. So how many weeks is that?
That is like 100 weeks.
There you go. All right? So find the amount, go across till you get to the line, and then go down to find out how many weeks. Almost like finding a slope, right? But not. Okay? So how many weeks was that, guys? 18 weeks.
Wow.
Look at you guys. And if you write 18, are you correct?
No.
Nope. You must write what? 18 weeks. Do not forget, if you don't include the units when you're asked a specific question that includes units, then your answer is wrong. Okay? All right. Good. Peta started selling bacon to the staff at school.
Bacon? That's so weird. Do you remember those bacon? It's so random. How would you
Like, is it cooked or is it just bacon?
So the lines cross where they both are at 8 weeks, and you explain it. The reason you know that is because that's where the lines cross. If the lines are crossing, that means that at that point they have exactly the same values, right? Otherwise, they couldn't be crossing. Do all lines you think cross?
No.
No. So be careful. Right. So let's look at another one. Let's see. Okay, there's number 2. Let's look at number 3. Anna has borrowed $450 from her mother to buy a phone. She gets paid for walking the neighbor's dog, and sometimes she babysits. She aims to pay her mother back at $15 per week. On the axes, draw a line showing the amount that Anna owes if she pays her mother $15 per week.
So she starts with 450.
So how much money? Yeah, she starts owing how much money? $450. So it's right there. I hate it that they're doing these in 20s for you, but it's okay. You can do halfway. And she's going to pay back how much? 15 per week. So that gives us a slope of 15 over what? But she's paying it back, so the amount she owes is going to go. So it's not 15, but what? Negative 15. She's not earning. She's paying back the debt. So it's going to go. For every time it goes over 1, it's going to go down what? 15. Now, again, that's kind of hard to show on this graph, but that's 5 and so what are we counting in 20s here? Yeah, this is a terrible graph. Oh, and each one is 2 weeks? Each line is 2 weeks?
Each like little section is 2 weeks. It says 10 weeks in each like 5
So maybe if we go ahead and change it to 2 weeks, just mean multiply them both by 2, that might be a little easier because that's going to be $30 for every 2 weeks, right? Yeah, this is not a pretty graph. So that means over 2 and down 30. That makes it a little easier, actually.
1,
right? Because each one of these is 20, and we were halfway between. So from here to here is 10.
Wait, why is it?
This is
So
so
each one's 2 weeks, so he has to double.
Each one's 2 weeks, so we double it to get to the lines. But I didn't have my graph isn't all the way down, so I can't see the bottom. Look at your book. Okay, let me just take this. Okay, let me just bring it up.
Because there's 10 weeks in each 5 boxes, so it's like you can evolve right down to 2 weeks.
Okay.
And it's really hard to plot this.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10. They're counting in 2-week periods.
Why are they doing that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're doing $20 intervals, right? So she had 450 guys. So she had $450, which is in a funny position, right? It's $10 over the line. Yeah? And she's doing $15 for every 1 week, but this scale is on 2 weeks. So I could turn that into 2 weeks by multiplying it by 2. But if I multiply the bottom by 2, what? Right? So they'd be down $30. So if I go over one line, that's 2 weeks. Down $30, well, from here to there is $10, and down there is another $20. So that puts it on the line. So that really made it nicer. So this is a nicer point than what we started with. And then it's just going to continue to do that. So go over 1 and down 30. So this one lands in the middle. Go over 1 and go down 30. So that one lands there. So be careful of your scale. That's going to be huge. And the scale of this one is dreadful. So what do you think they're going to do to you on the test that you have to take? Dreadful scale sounds about right to me. Okay? So just be careful. But know that you can always change this to a bigger fraction if it makes your units easier to use for you, right? If you change 1 week to 2 weeks, that just means multiply top and bottom by what? 2. If you changed 1 week to 3 weeks, multiply top and bottom by 3. Whatever makes your life easier.
And did you ever give like a full description of why?
Okay. Of what? Because the scale is 2 weeks. And I didn't want to have to be estimating halfway between each time. Right?
So it stops at 30 weeks.
Okay.
Do you want to be
Right? So yeah, it stops at what? Yeah, I didn't draw a very straight line then. There we go.
Oh, yeah, and then she has to flow for a little while, and then she comes.
Ah, yeah. So, okay. Now, if she continues to pay her, how many weeks will she have paid off the phone? It'll take 30 weeks if you used a ruler. If you just kept counting all the way down, you'd get to 30 weeks. Unfortunately, she got the flu at the end of the 12th week, so she can't do any babysitting or dog walking for 2 weeks. Consequently, she can't pay her mother again till the 15th week. So, don't panic. Think about what's happening. She stops paying. So what's going to happen to the line? Does it go down anymore? Is she going to owe any more money so it goes up? It's just going to stay flat for those 2 weeks. So again, that's at the 12th week, which is right here, right? So let's go. She started at 450. She went down there. That's 2 weeks. There. Then down there. Then there. Then down there. Okay? That's 10 weeks. And so there's 12 weeks. All right? Keeps doing the 1.5 things. All right? Now, for 2 weeks, she can't pay anything. So it's just right there. 2 weeks. 2 weeks is just one line.
So do you go like down and then just across and then you keep going down? Okay.
Yeah, just down and over, or over and down. It doesn't matter. Now, after that 2 week period where she couldn't pay, she can pay some more. She can pay again. So it's down and over, right? And she keeps paying again. So the line is going to go down for a while. It's going to go flat for just 2 weeks only, and then it's going to continue down.
It says so that she doesn't pay the 14th week. She only starts paying on the 15th week, so doesn't it go over 3?
Ah, okay. So it's going to go over, yeah. So she just stopped paying on the 14th week? I'm sorry. So it's going to go a little bit. So she just. So that means, well, that's 2.
Yeah, it's 1.5.
Just like a. And we go.
Let's just break it down.
I just drew.
Just a little longer and goes down.
Let's just stop.
Hopefully they won't give you these wild scales. But do
$10 per week after that.
But do expect, guys, so her new plan after she recovered from the flu is how far it goes afterwards. Now do expect that there will be some where they stop paying or they stop earning or whatever, which just means the graph does what? It goes flat. Okay? All right. So your homework. Guys, your homework is page 22 through
I started. That's like. That's like.
page 28.
Thank you. Oh, well.
And your homework is always going to be given at the end of the video to make sure you have to watch the video.
I get to take my grade.